The phone rang just after the nurses dimmed the lights. My 4 clicked in time with my heartbeat. Eric's voice came through flat, efficient. "Mom, I'm getting married tomorrow. Your car's gone. The house is sold. Bye." 4 sentences. "No, how are you? No, sorry." No hesitation. I didn't gasp. Didn't ask why. I just said, "You forgot one thing." Pause like static. "What do you mean?" I laughed once, sharp as broken glass. "You'll find out." The line went dead. The room felt too clean, too white. The lemon disinfectant made my eyes water. Across the hall, someone's monitor beeped steady as a funeral march. I stared at the ceiling tile with the brown water stain and thought, I was your background. Until I disappeared. A nurse passed my door, glanced in. "Need anything?" "Fresh air," I said. She told me the doctor could discharge me in the morning. I nodded. I'd been agreeable my whole life. That's how you get erased politely. I slid the tray table toward me and pulled my wallet from the drawer. My emergency cash was still folded inside a photo of Eric at 5, in his dinosaur pajamas. I didn't take the picture out, I turned it face down. You don't bury children. You bury expectations. A volunteer pushed a cart of paperbacks. She stopped at my door, offered mysteries and romances. "I'm living through both," I said. She smiled the way people do when they're not sure it's a joke. "You look like someone who just chose herself." Her words landed heavy. They didn't cross me out. I broke out. I borrowed a pen and wrote on the back of an old cafeteria receipt. "Silence isn't anger. It's a verdict." Then I packed my cardigan, the one that still smelled faintly of furniture polish from my kitchen, and set my cracked leather shoes by the bed. At dawn I would leave without a backward glance. No scene, no pleading. Just absence, clean, surgical. I didn't forgive. I just turned down the volume. And tomorrow Eric would learn exactly what I meant. Yesterday morning, I still believed I had a home to return to. The doctor had said, "A few more days and you'll be fine." And I held on to that promise like it was a train ticket already in my hand. I pictured the moment in detail. Stepping through my front door, setting the kettle on the stove, opening the curtains to flood the kitchen with late summer light. In my mind, everything was waiting. My garden heavy with tomatoes, the porch swaying in the warm wind, the table where I'd drink my first cup of coffee without the taste of hospital air. 2 days ago, I called Eric from this same hospital bed. I told him I was craving the apple pie from Miller's Diner. He said he'd bring one by, if I have time. He always had somewhere else to be, but I told myself it was fine. I even pulled the sweater I'd knitted last winter for Madison, his fiancée, out of my bag and folded it neatly. On top, I placed a card. "Congratulations on your new chapter. You deserve happiness." The words felt true when I wrote them. All day I imagined the scene. Pie in the center of the table, coffee cups waiting, the sound of his car pulling into the driveway, the slam of the door, his footsteps on the porch. In my mind it was a certainty, not a wish. The pie never came. The phone stayed silent. Sometime after midnight, I told myself he was busy with wedding plans, maybe too tired to visit. I didn't know that while I was rehearsing his welcome, my house key was sliding across a lawyer's desk into a stranger's palm. "You helped. But now you're in the way." No one had to say it. I felt it in the empty hours, in the quiet that followed every promise he didn't keep. I folded the sweater back into my bag, kept the card though I knew it would never be given. My hands trembled, not from weakness, but from the slow, cold realization that I'd been preparing a gift for a celebration I was never meant to attend. Back then I thought absence was a mistake. By tonight I'd understand it was deliberate. I didn't go back to sleep after his call. The quiet in the room felt different now, not restful but loaded. I propped the thin hospital pillow behind my back, pulled my old laptop onto my knees, and connected to the public Wi-Fi the nurses always said was too slow. The screen lit up to a flood of images. Madison's smiling face on a friend's Facebook page, tagged at bridal dinner. Her caption read, "One more night until forever." Around her I recognized half the guests, neighbors, Eric's coworkers, even the couple from across the street who used to bring me sweet corn in the summer. Not one empty chair for me. Scrolling further, I saw a check-in from Eric at the courthouse 2 weeks ago. My stomach tightened. The timestamp was the same day he told me he was working late. I clicked the link and there it was, public record, documents filed for a property transfer. My property. The buyer's name wasn't his. It was Madison's. It hit me in layers. First, the fact that they had planned a wedding I wasn't invited to. Then, that they'd already acted as if my home and my car were theirs to trade. And worst, the understanding that my invitation to their life had been ceremonial for years. They weren't waiting for me to show up. They were waiting for me to step out of the frame. I closed the laptop and let the dark screen reflect my face. "You didn't forget me," I said into the quiet. "You replaced me." The words felt steady, almost calm. I pulled my phone back out and opened the photos. There was one from last Christmas. Me in the kitchen, apron on, holding a pie while Madison posed beside me. She was smiling at Eric, not at me. I zoomed in and saw it clearly. I'd been background, a fixture. I slipped the phone into my bag. No replies, no explanations. I had no interest in arguing my way back into a place they'd already boarded shut. They thought I was lying here, recovering, waiting. But the truth was different. I'd been preparing for this without knowing it. They would find out soon enough. I signed the discharge papers before sunrise. The doctor frowned but didn't argue. Maybe he saw something in my face that said it wasn't up for discussion. I dressed slowly, every movement deliberate. Like I was packing away not just my clothes but an entire life. My cardigan still carried the faint scent of lemon oil from the kitchen table I'd polished every Sunday. I wondered if Madison had already sat there. Outside, the air was cool and sharp. A taxi idled at the curb, its headlights cutting through the early mist. The driver leaned over to push the door open. "Home?" he asked. "Not tonight," I said, sliding in. We drove past shuttered storefronts, the bakery where I used to buy Eric's birthday cakes, the park where he'd learned to ride a bike. Each place felt like a photograph someone had left too long in the sun. Colors faded, details slipping away. The driver glanced at me in the mirror. "You look like you just made a decision," he said. "I did," I answered. "I'm not going back." Instead of my address, I gave him the name of a roadside motel an hour away. The kind with flickering neon and rooms that smell faintly of old coffee and bleach. I watched the city thin into highway, the horizon opening wide. My phone vibrated twice, Eric's name on the screen, but I turned it face down on the seat. I didn't leave. I just stopped returning. At the motel I paid in cash. The clerk slid a key toward me without making eye contact, more interested in the morning news murmuring from the TV behind him. Room 12 was small, the bedspread patterned with tired flowers. I set my bag down, filled the ice bucket, and dunked my feet until the ache in my legs shifted into a different kind of pain, one I could choose. I didn't cry. I didn't pace. I sat at the little desk, pulled out the worn folder with my name on it, and laid out the documents in a neat row. The trust deed, the will, the account statements. My life reduced to paper but still mine. The quiet was thick, almost physical. Not the absence of noise but the presence of something else, resolve. I'd spent decades mistaking compliance for love. Tonight I understood the truth. They didn't erase me. I walked off the page. By mid-morning, the motel room smelled faintly of the burnt coffee from the lobby. I'd barely touched the styrofoam cup on the nightstand. Instead, I sat with my laptop open, the motel's sluggish Wi-Fi grinding its way through my email. In my inbox was a message from my bank. Notification. Account access changed. My pulse slowed then steadied. I clicked. There it was, Eric's name removed as a beneficiary, replaced by Madison's. The date was yesterday. The same day he called to tell me the car and house were gone. I dug deeper. A separate folder held statements from the joint account I'd once opened for emergencies. Over the last 2 months there were quiet withdrawals, small enough to avoid triggering alerts but steady. Groceries, gas, a rental payment in a town I'd never heard of. It wasn't sloppiness. It was planning. My fingers hovered over the keyboard but I didn't type. Words would give them the dignity of a conversation. I closed the lid and reached for the trust folder instead. 6 weeks ago, after a night when I couldn't shake the feeling that something was shifting under my feet, I'd had the deed moved into my name alone, sealed inside a living trust. Eric didn't know. Madison didn't know. The irony pressed a thin smile to my face. They thought they'd taken my home. They'd been selling smoke. The actual house, my house, was untouchable. In that moment, the betrayal felt almost tidy, like a door I could lock from my side. I picked up the phone, scrolled to Parker's number, my attorney, and hesitated. Not yet. Timing was part of the cut. I wanted the moment they found out to be clean and final. Silence isn't anger. It's a verdict. Instead, I opened the motel's drawer, the one meant for a Bible, and slid my documents inside. Then I took the key and dropped it into my cardigan pocket. When the phone buzzed again, this time with a text from Eric, I didn't read it. I powered the phone off and left it on the desk, its black screen like a small shut door. There was no rush now. The damage they'd tried to do had already circled back, unseen. They'd planned for my absence, but not for my choice to disappear on my own terms. I woke before the sun, the thin motel curtains leaking a strip of gray light across the bedspread. My first thought wasn't of Eric or Madison. It was of the envelope in my bag, the one with Parker's card clipped to the front. The phone was still powered off. It felt lighter that way, as if silence had weight and I'd set it down. I dressed in the same clothes I'd worn from the hospital. No need for fresh ones. Today wasn't about appearances. At the lobby desk, the clerk handed me a receipt without looking up. Outside, the air was cool, smelling faintly of damp asphalt. I walked 2 blocks before finding a payphone, its metal casing scarred with rust. I dropped in a quarter and dialed Anne's office. Her voice came on warm but alert. I was wondering when you'd call. Today, I said. We stopped the sale. And I want the will rewritten. There was no pause, no surprised intake of breath. Just the sound of her pen clicking. Understood. Can you be here by 10? I'll be there at 9. Hanging up, I felt a sharp clarity. This wasn't about getting back what they tried to take. It was about closing the door so it couldn't be opened again. I'd spent years leaving my life unlocked for them. Now I was changing the locks. At a corner cafe, I bought a coffee and sat by the window, the steam clouding the glass. I took the trust folder from my bag and slipped it into a plain manila envelope. In my notebook, I wrote a single line under today's date. I didn't leave. I just stopped returning. The pen moved easily, like it had been waiting for this sentence. A waitress stopped by my table eyeing the papers. Big day. Just cleaning house, I said. Her smile was quick, knowing. Feels good, doesn't it? Yes, I answered. Better than I expected. When I left, I tossed the coffee cup into the trash without finishing it. My hands were steady, my steps unhurried. Eric and Madison didn't know it yet, but the house, the car, the money, they were already out of reach. What they'd hear next wouldn't be my voice. It would be the sound of every door they counted on swinging shut. Anne's office sat on the corner of Main and 5th, its brick facade sun-warmed even in the early hour. I arrived at 9 sharp, the manila envelope tucked under my arm. Inside, the air smelled faintly of paper and cedar polish. Anne ushered me into her office without the small talk she reserved for other clients. We went through the trust deed, the bank statements, the will. Her pen scratched across the pages with quiet precision, every signature a nail sealing the lid. When the last document slid across her desk and leaned back. This is a clean break, she said. That's the point. She studied me for a moment. Most people want to talk about the why. You don't. Because the why doesn't change the ending. I left her office lighter than I'd walked in. The city felt different, sharper in its outlines. I crossed the street to a small cafe I'd never noticed before. The lantern, its windows fogged from the warmth inside. A bell chimed as I opened the door. The barista was young, her hair tied back in a loose knot. She poured my coffee without asking for my order, as if she'd been expecting me. You've got that look, she said, sliding the cup across. What look is that? Like someone who just remembered she owes herself more than she owes anyone else. Her words settled in me like an anchor finding the ocean floor. I smiled, a real one this time, not the tight-lipped curve I'd practiced over the years. Maybe I did, I said. I took a seat near the window, watching the late-morning traffic slide past. At the next table, a man in a work jacket glanced at me, then back at his notebook. You're not from around here, are you? Not anymore, I replied. He nodded slowly, as if he understood the kind of leaving that has nothing to do with miles. When I stepped back onto the sidewalk, the air felt warmer, my coat almost unnecessary. In the glass of a shop window, I caught my reflection. Not the woman waiting for a call or permission or an invitation. Just me walking forward. They hadn't crossed me out. I'd walked off their page. And I had no intention of turning back. The call came just as I was folding my coat over the motel chair. My phone, still powered down since yesterday, lit up when I pressed the button. 23 missed calls. 9 voicemails. All from Eric. I scrolled without listening. Then, as if on cue, it rang again. I answered on the 4th ring. His voice came in hot, already mid-sentence. "What the hell did you do? The sale's frozen. Madison's furious. We can't close on the house, and now the wedding venue wants payment in full. Do you have any idea what you've—" "I know exactly what I've done," I said, my voice even. He kept going, his words tumbling over each other. The sound of panic threaded through the anger. "You're ruining everything. We planned this for months. You can't just—" I cut him off. "You planned it for months without me. You sold what wasn't yours. And now you're upset the ground moved under your feet." Silence. Then quieter. "Mom, you've always come through for me. Now you know how it sounds when I don't." He tried again, softer this time, like a child testing a locked door. "We can fix this. Just sign the papers. You don't need that house." "That house is mine," I said. "So is my silence. Consider this both." I didn't wait for his answer. I ended the call and set the phone face down on the bed. The motel room seemed even smaller, the walls closer, but I felt no urge to open the door. Not yet. From the parking lot below, I heard a car horn blare, followed by the rise and fall of voices. Life going on, indifferent. I sat at the desk, tore a page from the motel's notepad, and wrote in block letters, "I didn't leave. I just stopped returning." I folded it into my wallet beside the old photo of Eric in his dinosaur pajamas. They could rage, plead, bargain, it didn't matter. The decision was already made, clean and irreversible. My absence wasn't a weapon. It was the air after a storm, heavy with change. When the phone rang again, I let it. The sound faded into the background until it was just another noise I no longer owed my attention. The wedding happened without me. I knew because Madison's cousin, who still followed me on Facebook, posted a single blurry photo. Madison in her dress, Eric beside her, the background a plain municipal hall instead of the lakefront estate they'd bragged about. No flowers, no band. The caption read simply, "Love is enough." I almost laughed. 2 days earlier, the attorney had filed the paperwork that froze the house transfer indefinitely. Madison's loan application for the venue had collapsed without the property as collateral. Whatever deposits they'd made were non-refundable. I imagined the moment they found out, when the polite smiles cracked, when the truth finally sank in that my signature wasn't coming. I didn't seek updates, but they arrived anyway. A message from the property manager I'd hired. Tenants move in next week. Deposits secured. First month's rent paid in full. My house, still mine, was now income. Enough to cover more than my needs. Enough to keep me far from any doorstep they could knock on. Eric's last voicemail came that same afternoon. His tone was no longer angry, just bewildered. "Mom, where are you living? We can talk about this." He didn't say he was sorry. He didn't ask if I was okay. The words that mattered still weren't in him. I deleted the message without saving the number. The phone felt lighter afterward. In the motel lobby, I asked the clerk for a long-stay rate. He slid a different key across the counter, room 18, farther from the road, with a view of a scraggly tree that caught the evening light just so. I took it without hesitation. That night, I sat on the bed with the window open, the air carrying the faint hum of highway traffic. My life, reduced to a single suitcase and a folder of documents, fit neatly into the corner of the room. For the first time in years, I felt untethered in the best way. They could search all they wanted. They could send messages into the void. But they no longer had a map that led to me. I had stopped being their background. I was no longer even in the frame. The house stood, rented and secure. My name on the deed. My voice quiet but final. The rest of their story would be written without me. And that was exactly how I wanted it. The mornings are different now. No alarms, no waiting for a call that never comes. Just the slow ritual of coffee. Real coffee, ground fresh, the way I used to make it before hospital air dulled my senses. The motel room is quiet except for the drip of the old machine and the occasional knock of a cleaning cart down the hall. Outside my window, the scraggly tree has begun to drop its leaves. They fall one at a time, soundless like small acts of surrender. I pull a chair to the window and sit with my feet tucked under me, watching them spiral to the ground. There is no TV playing in the background, no phone in reach. I keep it turned off in the drawer with my documents. If there are messages, they can wait forever. I'm not expecting anyone. That's the point. Some mornings I bake. The kitchenette is barely big enough for a toaster oven, but I've managed a pan of cornbread, a small apple tart. The smell fills the space and I eat straight from the pan while the air is still warm. I no longer cook for the possibility of company. Food tastes different when it's for no one but you. In the afternoons, I walk the stretch of road behind the motel, past a line of old houses with peeling paint and stubborn roses still blooming out front. No one here knows my name. That anonymity feels like armor. Once, a woman from room 7 waved at me from her porch chair. "You from around here?" she asked. "Not anymore," I told her. She nodded like she understood. Maybe she did. Back in my room, I pour another cup of coffee and sit at the small desk. The sunset turns the wall a soft gold. I take out the photograph of Eric in his dinosaur pajamas, the one I'd folded away in the hospital, and slide it into an envelope. I don't address it. I don't mail it. It's just no longer in my wallet. People think leaving is loud, doors slamming, voices raised. But sometimes it's this: a room, a cup, a view no one else shares. The kind of quiet you choose. I take a sip, watching the last light fade over the tree. And I think, not with bitterness but with certainty. Sometimes love is simply stopping the explanations. What would you have done in my place? If the story hit you, leave a like. And don't forget to subscribe. It only gets stronger from here.